very excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time. But just by show of hands, just so I can really understand the room a little bit, how many people have ever heard of me before? Okay. Get you feeling good to start off the morning. But that's okay. Well, I kind of suspected that, so I think what I'm going to do is take a step back, give you a little context about who I am, and then share some words of wisdom that I've learned along the way, and then hopefully open it up to question and answer, so this can be more of an interactive conversation, all right? For me, both my parents were born in Haiti, and they came to America not knowing how to speak English. And so at a very young age, my parents told me that education is the foundation of opportunity and possibility in America. And that if you want to overcome racism or prejudice, be excellent. Because when you're excellent, people stand up and take note. And that's really where the name of my company came from, Group Excellence. I went to a small private school in Dallas, Garland Christian Academy. I went there from first through 12th grade. Then after that, I went on to SMU, where I was blessed to be able to get a triple major in public policy, economics, and psychology. Then I went back and got my MBA. So stay a little busy in school. But my junior year, my world changed after reading a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Has anybody heard of Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Yeah, a lot of people have. If you're an entrepreneur, I feel like it's the guide. If you haven't read it, it's definitely a must read. But it really challenged me to start a business. And I didn't have a lot of money at the time, so I was looking for something that was kind of low cost of entry. And school always kind of came easy to me, so tutoring just made a lot of sense. So I went in, was able to start this tutoring business, really with the vision early on of tutoring rich kids. I feel like rich people had the money, and they had kids, and they were willing to spend on their kids. So that's kind of how I started. If you know anything about the Dallas area, SMU is actually in one of the wealthiest areas in the Dallas area. So there was a ton of kids in the area that could take advantage of these services. It went really well for me for the first semester that I was doing it, but then a good friend of mine did Teach for America, and are y'all familiar with Teach for America? Yeah, so obviously an amazing program, and he really challenged me to focus on school districts, because he said school districts have a need, they also have excess funding, so you should go there and focus on that. So I decided to do that, and through a series of connections, I was blessed to be able to get in front of the executive director of Dallas Independent School District and really share my vision, which was to get college kids to be mentors and tutors in the classroom. So all of us, I think, have heard of Big Brothers Big Sisters, right? So if they tutored, they would look a lot like what we did. We were just getting college kids to go off and do it, and she believed in me, and she said, yeah, we'll give you a shot. So early on, it was my senior year, we were given a $20,000 grant from Texas Instruments in order to start our tutoring program. And it was an incredible year. I remember waking up early, going, finding my friends, then driving to the local inner city school. We'd go tutor, then I'd put them back in the car, drop them off, and run to class. And I was blessed to have a nice teacher that didn't dock me off too much for being late. And it was just an incredible year, but that whole time, I really was fighting this thing inside me, because since I was in 5th grade, I was supposed to be a lawyer. I was watching Perry Mason and Matlock. Those were my dudes, and I was like, that's gonna be me one day. But something happens when you work with kids. It touches you in a way that sometimes you don't expect. And that's what happened to me. And so this vision of law school died to this vision of making a difference. And I really wanted to go all in on that. I was blessed, though, along the way. One of those quote-unquote rich kids that I was blessed to tutor early on, his dad sat on the board of directors for the SMU Business School. So he made a few phone calls, and I was able to get into the business school, but he really encouraged me to say, hey, Carl, you have a passion, you have something that you want to do, go pursue that passion. Because it's rare in life that you get to do something that will change people's lives forever. This is one of those opportunities, so you should go after it. And that was probably some of the best advice I'd ever been given, and was able to then just go off and really create this business. That first year was tough. I mean, TI improved their grant from $20,000 to $100,000, so there was enough money there to be able to run a business, but not enough to be able to make it my lifestyle. And then I read the newspaper one day. And in the newspaper, they talked about a tutoring program called the Supplemental Educational Services. And so what that is, the federal government had a program that if you were going to a low-performing school and you were low income, they would grant you $1,500 for free tutoring. And I did the math, and I was only charging $300 for the year. This was $1,500. I was like, I think I got a business here. And so that really changed the trajectory of our business. After that, after we applied and got part of that program, working with the government, so I'm really supportive of governmental programs and governmental opportunities. You still have to have the hustle. You still have to be an entrepreneur, but sometimes there are paths and opportunities that come available to you that you have to take advantage of. And this was one of those opportunities, and I just saw the business explode. We grew basically 4 times what we were every year for a 3 or 4 year span. And it was just an incredible run. At our highest point, we hit about 13 million in sales. And from 2004, out of my dorm room from where we started to today, we've done about 40 million in sales tutoring kids. Who would imagine, right? No, thank you. And really, I can say it's a testament to my team, testament to the people that were around me. And I guess in 2011, when we hit our highest point, I looked at everything that was going on, and I was like, you know what? I think it's time to take some chips off the table. So I found a local private equity firm and was able to sell to them and take some chips off the table to be able to take care of me and my family. And really, for the next 2 years, I began investing in opportunities and people, in projects and businesses, and they began messing up my business. And so we grew. I guess they bought us in May, and by August, they put us in 35 cities in 13 states. Now, these were oil guys, and so they were all about explosive growth and doing it big. And I was like, I understand, but I don't think that's gonna work. Apparently, though, you'll learn this when you sell your business, that the day after you sell it, sometimes they think you stop knowing how it works. And so I gave them 2 years to figure it out, but I was blessed 2 years late, almost 2 years to the day of when they bought it from me. I was able to buy it back for about 10% of what I sold it for. And so if you can do that, I recommend it. It's a good thing. It's a good thing, yeah. I definitely recommend that. But yeah, then we were able to go and continue to grow the business. Along the way, I've been able to get into, you see in the brochure, the Vicar Capital. So now I've been able to get into the asset management business, and that's going really well for us. But that's kind of my story. I mean, that's kind of what brings me here today. And I wanted to really share some tips that I learned along the way that I think could be helpful for everyone here. The first one is just to dream big. I mean, my story is, by any stretch of the imagination, improbable. I remember one day eating dinner at one of the skyscrapers in Dallas. Some have a hotel at the top, and we're blessed to be able to take my parents. And I remember sitting there. My mom looked out the window, overseeing Dallas, and was like, we were in a hut. Like, she just, this idea that this is possible, that we were able to do this, was just so powerful. And to see the look in her eyes, just from a dream, just from a vision. And so I encourage everyone who wants to be an entrepreneur to dream big. Feel comfortable, like the song says, to dream the impossible dream. Because some people are able to achieve it. But if you don't see it, you can't achieve it. You have to actually have that vision. And I remember early on, for anybody who has kids, my parents taking me to the richest neighborhoods in Dallas. My mom, actually growing up, was a babysitter in one of those rich communities. And she actually never dreamed of the day of her kids going to school, but she planted the seed in us when we were young. And so she would drive us around to the rich areas, and you probably know this, and she would drive us around to the rich areas and say, hey, look, you can be there. That can be you. Now, I was bored out of my mind, and I was like, what are we doing? Why can't we go home? Why can't I go play? But she had a greater vision for me, and she wanted me to be exposed to finer things so that when I got there, I wouldn't be surprised. And so I challenge you all to do that as well, to make sure you're dreaming big. But one of the things that allows you to dream big is the people that you surround yourself with. I call it your personal board of directors. I believe each of us has a group of 3 or 5 people that you go to and talk to if you're about to make a major decision. So if you were gonna move to Dallas, if you were gonna move to California, there's 3 or 4 people off the top of your head you would call and say, hey, what do you think? Do you think I should move? Do you think I shouldn't? Those people are your board of directors. But oftentimes, people don't take the time to pick those people on purpose. it really just kind of happens. These are people that are always around, my friends, my parents, and you never really take the time to say, are these the people that should be speaking in my life? Do these people have a right to do that? So I challenge you to reevaluate who your board is. And some of you need to fire some people who are on your board and replace them with some new people. And your success in life depends on it. So make sure you're keeping that in mind. And like any great board, it should be a diverse set. It should be some people who are older than you, some people that are younger than you, some people who are in your career, in your field of study, in your field of business, and some people who aren't. Because that diverse perspective will allow you to get different points of view to help you make the best decision. As for me personally, I look to the life of Jesus as an example of how I want to live my life. And I look at what he did. He surrounded himself with 12 people, the 12 disciples, right? But even in that group of 12, he had 3, Peter, James, and John, that were his close inner circle. And one of those dudes really didn't have his back. And so, and he knew it. And in your groups, that's going to be true too. There's going to be people that come along that they're saying they're for you, and they're just waiting to stab you in the back. They're waiting to throw you to the wolves. So keep an eye out for those people because they can keep you down, and also be very selective of who that core group is in your life. But in order to dream big, you have to believe it's possible. And so challenge yourself to ask the question, if I couldn't fail, what would I want to do? And if I knew there was a 100% chance I would not fail, what would it be? Because when you ask yourself that question, you start thinking in that mindset, it really starts exposing the desires of your heart. And one thing I can tell you about this entrepreneurial journey, if you don't have passion, you're going to fail. Because it's gonna get hard. And not having a clear understanding of what it is that's driving you, that's pushing you, will cause you to fall when adversity comes. Because adversity will come. But it's important that you have that thing inside you that's driving you to be more successful. And it's important that you dream big. I think the second thing that you have to do on this entrepreneurial journey is you have to be willing to work hard. If you're not willing to work hard, none of this is gonna work. And that's fine. If you don't wanna work hard, if you don't wanna build the time into your day and your schedule, that's fine. You're just not an entrepreneur. So don't tell yourself that lie that you're an entrepreneur if you're not wanting to work hard. You'll hear a lot of people say, I want to work smarter, not harder. And I think nothing could be further from the truth. You have to do both. If you're not willing to do both, you won't be successful. Obviously, a lot is going on in Baltimore right now as the world's attention is there right now with all the things that are happening as racial tensions are high between the police and between members of the city. And you can see as you look at the situation, people who are going through some hard stuff, who have made decisions in terms of how they're going to react that could be deemed reasonable. It's like, oh, I'm upset, I'm going to throw a fit. I understand. But another reasonable response is to work even harder. I mean, when you face any person of color has heard the phrase, yeah, I got to work twice as hard to get half as far. Well, for me, what that means then is I got to put 4 times the effort in. And so I go off and do it. I am one of the most competitive people you will ever meet. If you want to go race right now, I'll go race you, like straight up. Like no issues, no problem, I'll go race. It drives me. I love competition, I love competing. And for me, when I saw this stuff happen in Baltimore, I couldn't sleep and I woke up at 3 a.m. and I went to work. And the reason why I went to work is because what the kids needed to see, in my estimation, was examples of success. People who went through some hard stuff and still were able to be successful. And I know as I look at Haiti and I look at all the things that happened, the world's attention turned to Haiti when the earthquake happened. But Haiti was a bad situation even before then. It was the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And honestly, in the day-to-day living, the earthquake didn't change that much. There are people who just went off and had to continue living hard lives. And every day, I personally live with the reality of there, but for the grace of God, go I. So what I try to do is make sure that it can never be said of me that if somebody was given my shot, they would do better than me. And every day, I try everything I can to work hard. A lot of people get it twisted when they hear my story. And they get it twisted and think my story is one of intelligence. And I've been blessed, like I said, school came really easy to me. But mine's not one of intelligence, it's one of hard work. And I tell entrepreneurs all the time, there's nobody smarter than you, there's nobody better than you, but certain people know different things that you don't know. And if you had access to that information, you would be just as successful. So if I took my, I was trying for effect to get my phone, but it stuttered, but that's all right. if I take my phone out right now, right, and I pass it around the room and I don't think anybody in the room is going to be able to open it. Now, is that an intelligence issue? No, you just don't know the code. If you knew the code, you could open the phone. And by opening the phone, you could access my network of people and all the tools that come across the phone. But if you don't know the code, you can't get in. In that same way, it's rarely an intelligence issue. If you've made it past middle school, you're smart enough to be a millionaire. I mean, just bottom line, you are. But there's other things that matter as well. It's like if I'm playing basketball, just being able to shoot isn't enough, or just being tall. Now, obviously, if somebody is 5 foot and somebody is 6 foot, the 6 foot guy has a better chance of getting in the NBA. But if somebody's 6 foot and somebody's 7 foot, just because you're 7 foot doesn't mean you're going to be in the NBA. I mean, Michael Jordan was 6'6", and he was the best ever. So there's other things that matter, your ability to shoot, your ability to pass, your ability to react. The same is true in business. Are you able to react to the situations? Are you able to be social? I heard in one of the groups, somebody mentioned that you might be able to give a great pitch, but when you meet somebody at a coffee shop, are you able to talk to them about your business? Are you able to take advantage of that opportunity? Those skills are what separate the great from the good. And you have to be willing to take the time to develop those skills and to work hard. I heard somebody talk about in your journey to success, there's this idea of force multipliers. And what that is, it really comes kind of from the military, where if the military wants to attack, they can attack with intelligence and knowing kind of where their enemy is. They can attack with speed. They can attack with force. And those things sometimes will create force multipliers so that they will be even stronger than they appear based on their numbers. Well, on our journey to success, I've found some force multipliers as well. One of those is knowledge. Literally the information that you have access to. There's one piece of information that if you had it today, it would change everything. It would make you a millionaire, it would make you more healthy. It's just there's one piece of information. The challenge, though, is we don't know what that one piece of information is. And so we have to go do the digging. We have to go find the needle in the haystack and really take the time to figure out, okay, is this what I need? Is this what I need? Is this what I need? And a lot of people aren't willing to put the work in to get what they need. And because they're not willing to put the work in, they don't achieve the highest level of success. The second I've found is skills. It goes hand in hand with knowledge. So I have this piece of information, but now I have to apply it. And so asking yourself the question, what one skill, if I had it, would change my life, or would change my business, or would make me a better person? Once you know the answer to that question, devoting yourself to getting better at that is critical, because you know that one thing is a force multiplier on your journey to success. So why not take the time to do it? Why not aspire to be in the top 10% of your field? Why do people do it in general? Well, the reason they do it is the same reason that the robber robs the bank. That's where the money is. Like, when you're the best, they pay you. And if you're terrible, you don't get paid. That's kind of how it works. And so developing the skills to become the best in your field is critically important. The last force multiplier that I'll talk about today is this idea of connections. There's a one-to-one relationship with the people you know and your future success. I would venture to say that everybody in here, for every success in your life, you can look back and find somebody who made an introduction, who helped you out, who did something. And those types of people, those are the ones that change you. And that's why it's so important to develop your network. At SMU, they have this catchphrase that says, your network determines your net worth. And I've really found that to be true. It's kind of like the old adage, it's not what you know, it's who. And that's true. I mean, a friend of mine from SMU, her dad trades oil with Iraq. That's what he does. And if I needed a job, I could call her and say, hey, I need a job, and she'll give me a job. Why? Because I know her. And a lot of the kids that I saw at SMU, it was a function of they knew different people. And because they knew different people, that opened up different doors. And in this world that we live in now, we are so interconnected with Facebook, with Twitter. You have the ability to know people in ways that you never have. I mean, why LinkedIn has made so much money is that they've realized that visualizing a network is valuable to people. So that when you need a job, you can say, okay, so-and-so knows so-and-so, oh, I know him, and you can actually connect the dots online. And I encourage anybody who's trying to be successful to make sure they're allocating time in their schedule to network. Because networking is more chess than it is checkers, right? So in checkers, the next move I make is the most important. Where in chess, it's 2 or 3 down the road. So whenever you're networking, don't be like the 19-year-old kid who's going on a date trying to close on the first transaction. It's be more like Beyonce, put a ring on it, and really commit to the strategy. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And you really have to be in it for the long haul, because if you're not in it for the long haul in networking, you're gonna miss some key opportunities that are gonna hold you back. And so that concept is really important. I think the other thing that we have to do on this journey towards success is we also have to be willing to give back. If you're not willing to give back to people, to the people around you, it's kind of like, from my perspective, it's what's the point? For me, what I've seen in the lives of successful people, because I try to model myself after people I've seen be successful, is one constant is they find time to give back. They find time to go out in the community and talk to people and do things. And at first, I thought they were doing it just out of the kindness of their heart, but really it's not just that. There seems to be written into the laws of the universe this idea of reaping and sowing, this idea of karma, this idea of what you put in is what you get out. And so by giving back, you're really opening up the doors in order for you to receive as well. And so if you want to do it in a selfish vein, well, do it for that, because I've seen this over and over and over again be true. And also, it allows you to learn things from people that you never would have had a chance to otherwise. I mean, just being here today is just I've heard such incredible stories from people all over the room, people who are doing things that I had no idea was going on. And just seeing your city and seeing the things that you guys are doing is incredible. And there are already some points of connection that I've made in my head that I'm like, hey, because I met this person here, I probably can connect them with another person here, and that's going to be successful. But that really came out of being willing to give back, being willing to fly from Dallas to come speak at an event. And if you don't have that spirit in you, it's going to hold you back. You're not going to be as successful as you can be. And so I've talked a lot, and I want to open it up to questions. I want to do a lot of question and answer. If we have the time, I'm going to be here as long as you'd like. But I'm going to turn it over to you guys and really just open it up for questions and kind of just go from there. All right? Yes, in the back.
How much did your immigrant parents, I know you spoke about it a little bit,
Yeah.
kind of put that fire in you to succeed? And are you worried about the next generation being a little too comfortable?
Yeah, so she asked, how much did my parents really put the fire in me to succeed? And am I worried about the next generation? For me, I felt sympathy for that kid in Baltimore whose mom was beating him, because that's what my mom would have done to me if I was kind of part of anything like that. She would have tore me up. So I think really early on, for me, the passion that they instilled in me really came from watching them work. I often like to say my parents are the heads of, hard work has a terrible marketing department. And people don't know how powerful hard work really can be. But my parents were ambassadors of hard work from early on. I remember seeing my parents work. My dad worked the graveyard shift, and my mom working as well. And seeing that will only inspire you. It only can. And so I think I would give them 100% of the energy, 100% of my success. I would pass on to them because they instilled it. My sister, she's been blessed to do really well as well. She went to SMU. She got an MD, MBA. So she's in med school right in her second year of residency. And I really think we both would point back to our parents. As far as the next generation, yeah, I mean, truly I'm scared. I mean, you see I kind of wish everybody had the opportunity to come from, be a first-generation immigrant, because it's so close to you, not just everyone else in general, even seeing my children. Like, I want to make sure that they never get complacent. And I think the best way to do that is not really to come out of a place of fear, but to more come out of a place of generosity, where you really let people understand what opportunity they have. And when they understand it, they'll take advantage of it. And I think that's sometimes what we do wrong as a society. We scare the kids as opposed to show them, look, this is your real opportunity. Here's how to take advantage of it. And I think if we did more of that, we'd have a little bit more success, especially in 2015, because we can connect them with different people. I mean, kids nowadays can literally tweet Jay-Z, or they can tweet the president. I mean, they may respond, they may not, but just having the ability to do that is crazy. And so that's kind of my response to that. Great question. Other questions? Yes?
You said there were 3 force multipliers that the military uses. You mentioned force, intelligence, and there was one more.
Well, I don't know if the military and somebody, and you may be able to speak to this, but other people may be able to speak to them. I just know what I heard. I've heard force, intelligence, and speed are ones that they leverage in order to be more successful. And I found that, yeah, and just on the road to success myself, that there are some force multipliers that will help you get there faster. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you choose to, so I am just loving everything that your business is about.
Well, cool, thank you.
And the passion and the heart and all of that. And do you see people around you maybe doing in the same field that are not driven by the same things as you are, maybe purely money driven? And do you associate your business with them? Like, would you choose to do business with other businesses that are maybe not of the same core values as you? Is it that important?
Yeah, so great question. So kind of, and let me kind of repeat back what I'm hearing you say, is one, what I associate with, it sounds like I have a very passion for social entrepreneurship, and will I associate with other businesses if they don't have that same core value and that same passion? And honestly, for me, kind of going back to what I said earlier, I am the most competitive person you're ever gonna meet. And so talent and success matter significantly more. Unfortunately, yeah, some people use nonprofits, for, if you will, as a tax hack. So they really don't have a business. They just really are looking for the tax advantage, and they're not good enough. And honestly, whether you're driven by, I think if you're driven by money, people will smell it. And in the sphere of education, there's something weird about it, where as a service-based business, there's sometimes a stigma to education. Like, it's okay to build a building, but it's not okay to kind of make money on the students. And there is that stigma, and it is a fine line. I think it's one of the challenges with charter schools is people are like, well, yeah, it might be good, but it just kind of feels icky, right? And so you want to make sure that you're coming from a right place as a person. That's what I found to be successful. But in reality, I want to be with the best. If you want to have a championship level team, you have to have championship level players. And so when I evaluate the people that I do business with, it's really more of a function of execution. I think everybody can have a great idea, everybody can have a great team, but if you can't execute, it doesn't really matter. I think the story of sports is that great players on great teams still sometimes fail because they're not able to execute. And so I really look for execution more so than I look at anything else. With, and I say this a lot, with a don't be stupid disclaimer. So obviously if this person's a crook, I'm not gonna work with them, but in general, kind of, I value execution over pretty much everything else. Great question. Other questions? Yes. Yeah, okay, I'll get her and then I'll get you on the way back, Brandon.
So, because obviously a lot of your success you attribute to your parents and their immigration narrative, and knowing that you had the opportunity to dream big because they sacrificed for you. Nowadays, we see in immigrant communities a trend, obviously, of the first generation born in the United States to want to become doctors, lawyers, and sometimes they sacrifice their true passion, their dreams of what they could be because they feel they owe their parents. What kind of advice would you give to those young people?
Yeah, that is That is just so true. I mean, if you come from that immigrant population, you know, because somebody told that first group that came over that you have to be a lawyer or a doctor. If you're not a lawyer, a doctor, engineer, you're not successful. And so combating that narrative is tough sometimes. I know I faced it. I mean, that's why I said I wanted to be a lawyer. But when I came to my parents and I said, no, I think I'm gonna go pursue this, now that I'm older and we've talked, I know that they were adamantly against it. They're like, what is he gonna do? Is he gonna fail? And they were scared, but I was blessed to have parents that allowed me to go off on my own. But I've also seen another good friend of mine, he didn't go that way. He just stayed on the path that his parents told him and hated his life and hates his life because of kind of the path that he takes. And so what I encourage people to do that are in that is there comes a point in life where it's your life. And if you're not willing to say, I'm gonna go left, even though it's gonna hurt my parents, well, then you're gonna get held back. It really, there's that internal character inside you that has to say, hey, I can go off and do this. But I think that strength comes from your board of directors. And so what I would encourage them to do is find, obviously for a lot of immigrants, our first board members, are the chairman and chairwoman of the board is our parents, and their voice crowds out the voices of other people. And so it is very important as you get older to go find other people in the network that you can go talk to. So one, you know what you're doing, you can honestly take a look, and two, you can combat their voice. You can say, hey, but these people, and you can actually show them a plan. It might impact a relationship, but in order to be successful in life, sometimes you have to risk the relationship in order to go after what you want. But again, it's the don't be stupid disclaimer, because some people think they can go, everyone wants to go off, it's sexy to be an entrepreneur nowadays, it's sexy, oh, I wanna go start off my own business, but some people aren't cut out for that. And if you go off and do this and you're not cut out for it, you're gonna fail. And if you don't have friends around you who are gonna tell you the truth, it's not gonna work, because you're gonna be competing against people like me, and I'm gonna take advantage of any weakness. That's just kind of what's gonna happen. Great question. And I don't know if Brandon's still in here, but if he's not, I'll take another question until he comes back. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
You mentioned the very first thing was to dream big, and I don't know where this is very important.
Okay. She put me on the spot, but that's all right. Yeah. You did, it's okay.
But to dream big and to have a vision, how important, I know obviously it's important to you, it's number one, but would you share with us and with people who are gonna watch this video, how important it is from a business perspective all the way to a personal perspective to keep sight of your vision?
Yeah. So I'm gonna tackle that in a different way. So the reason why I've seen that a lot of people don't dream big is because they're scared they're gonna fail. And it's like, if I dream small, then I miss small. But if I dream big, I miss big. And that fear of failure holds us back. But the truth is, at some level, all of us are scared. And at some level, especially on the entrepreneurial journey, it's very, very lonely. Like, I know any entrepreneur, they'll attest to this fact that it's lonely sometimes. And you're scared that, hey, what if all this work, all this energy I put into this was for nothing? And I shouldn't have been doing this. And that fear really sometimes holds you back. And so what I tell people to do is, especially younger kids, I speak in Portuguese a lot. So my Portuguese analogy is of a running back. Every time a running back touches the ball, his goal is to score a touchdown, right? Every single time. The overwhelming majority of the time, though, he fails at his goal. He's unsuccessful. Now, because he's unsuccessful, does he stop? No. Because there's other people trying to keep him from achieving his goal, does he stop? No. He keeps on going. And although he's gonna fail almost every single time he touches the ball, he keeps going. In that same way, your failure should not define you, it should inspire you. And you should learn, every time you fail, learn something from it. Every time you fail, add something to your game to make you more successful. Because in doing that, you're able to take kind of the next step. And so, don't be afraid to dream because you're gonna fail. I think that's sometimes how we frame the question. It's like, well, what if I fail? And I always like to flip it and say, well, what if you succeed? What if everything you want is actually possible if you're willing to ask? And there's only one way to find out. And so I definitely encourage you to dream big, and don't let the fear of failure keep you. And again, going back to the idea of the board of directors, but you have to have people in your life that are going to tell you the truth. Because a lot of people aren't self-aware. And I mean, you've seen American Idol, so I mean, and some of the people don't have any friends because they let them go make a fool of themselves on national TV. And if that's you in the entrepreneur game, it's gonna be tough because you're gonna spend a lot of money. So make sure you have people who are around you who will tell you the truth. Don't run from the truth, be open to it. No problem. Other questions? I think you had one.
This is going to be solving the world's problems.
Okay, go ahead. I feel like I got some time. Let's see what I got. Yeah.
With the fact that you've worked with today's youth, and trying to with the tutoring and things of that nature, and then looking at your background, again, I look at kind of some inner city youth today as they're that first immigrant generation, even though they're not immigrants, their parents aren't strangers to this country. Their success hasn't been there, haven't taken opportunity of the advantages that are here for them. So how is there a way to convert that mentality without necessarily having the strength of the parents that you've had to those kids to leverage that? Just
great question. And kind of the idea of how do you get the youth of the day to take advantage of the tools that exist? I think the first is what G.I. Joe said, knowing's half the battle. I don't think the kids know all of the opportunities. And if we can be real for a second, the education system's kind of broken. I mean, we're still teaching kids who the 19th president is when they can just Google it. Like, Google's not going away. I mean, I understand it's important, but Google's not going anywhere. I don't know if that's controversial, but it's not going anywhere. And if it does, it's gonna go with, yeah, those are the same people who think the horse and buggy are coming back. And there are certain things that happen that change things forever. And communication went through a culture shift. I would have never imagined my mom texting me. Like, this would be the craziest thing in my mind. She'll actually send me a text message, but she does now because the world has changed, but our educational system hasn't kept up. But at the same time, this other beautiful educational system is emerging, where you have things like Khan Academy, and you have things like YouTube, and you have recorded videos, and you have this war really that's happening. The past is in a revolutionary war with the future. And I'm confident that technology is going to win, but it's going to take some time. So one of the things that we have to do with the youth is really hit them where they are and be culturally relevant. It's not only about content, it's also about context. And so the kids are on Facebook, they are on YouTube, and the way business is done is changing. So if we're able to meet them where they are and show them, hey, it's okay to leverage technology and computers or whatever to be successful, that there are people that do it, I think that's one way to do it. The other way is really models. It's hard to get somewhere if you've never seen somebody do it. I mean, good, bad, or indifferent, whether you like Obama, don't like Obama, whatever the case may be. I remember being in Dunbar High School, an inner city school in Fort Worth ISD, and his speech when he came on and he told the kids to go to school and to stay in school and work harder. And right after the thing went off, I remember seeing the kids go, oh, I guess I should work hard. And it's crazy, but sometimes the kids just need to see an example, and that example care. And so I think when you don't have the foreign parents, you have to have a support system, and that support system is that quote-unquote board. And we as a community have to, on purpose, create connection points for kids, access to those board members. And that's why if kids tweet me, if Brandon reaches out to me later on, I'm going to actually help him. And if he's no good at the shoe thing, I'm gonna tell you, you're no good, go do something else. And if he's good, I'm gonna tell him you're good, we'll keep going. But you have to be willing to do that for other people. And I think that's the only way, is connect them to the technology that exists and connect them with mentors that can help. Yes?
Mine is more of a statement than a question.
Absolutely.
Feel fine to respond to it. When you take a look at historically this country, and when you take a look at, especially if we're talking about our youth here in New York City as well as Baltimore and all of the United States, from the perspective of being African Americans. African Americans are not immigrants. They weren't brought over as immigrants, or they didn't migrate to this country as immigrants.
Correct.
So you have to take that into effect when you
Absolutely.
talk about the differences when you talk about an immigrant population coming to this country and succeeding. And enslaved Africans who for generations have been second-class citizens.
Absolutely.
So I think that that's important to put on the table.
No,
I'm not saying,
Oh,
I'm saying it's important to put on the table to make that distinction.
no, I think that's critically important. Yeah.
And the second thing, access to the code. That access to the code, sometimes being a second-class citizen, not an immigrant, makes that access to the code very, very, far removed. I mean, some of us get through the code. I consider myself an immigrant from the perspective of my parents came from the South.
Yeah.
And they came with that same mentality of an immigrant. They came from the South to the North saying, you're going to be better. You're going to have access to education and things that we didn't have in the South. So, but for the next generations after me, and some of our generations that are living in the cities aren't immigrants even from the South.
Correct.
There's so many generations removed. So I just wanted to, say.
No, I think that's an important point. I spoke at a panel, and you can check it out on Facebook. It was called The Compelling Why. And what he did, he actually brought a group of young inner city, he had different demographics, but this was African-American men that he brought, and we all spoke to them. And it's a powerful, it's just the reality. To discount the reality is nonsense. To discount the reality that it's harder to do business in America if you're black, that's just true. I know good, bad, and different is true, but it doesn't matter. The cavalry's not coming. Like, no one's coming to help. And if you get stuck in this mindset of somebody's coming to help, you're screwed. Because regardless of the fairness of the issue, the kids in the city of York are competing against the kids at the Rich High School in Dallas. They just are. And if we allow people to, there's two responses to that. One, you're angry, or two, you do something. And that's why I said, for me, like when I saw Baltimore, I was like, there's nothing I can do. It is an unfair situation in every way that I saw it. But what I can do is I can go to work. What I can do is go be an example to kids that it is possible. And is it harder? Yes. Is it more challenging? Yes. Can it be done? Yes. But the kids don't know that it can be done if they don't see examples of people who are doing it. And that's why, like I said, coming and speaking today, it was important for me to come and for you to see me. The life I've lived, I don't even believe it sometimes. But it's real. I mean, real people can do these things. And the access to the code is the whole game. It's when you actually realize that there is an answer. But we just have to get the kids early enough so that they know there actually is an answer. And it's hard. And like I said, it's an impossibly hard problem, especially at the global level. And that's why I try to think more of it at the individual level. But then what can I do? How can I get out of this? And that's when I have a chance to help, I try to. But the reality of helping is I can't help everybody. You can't help everybody. We can't. So what I encourage people to do is do for one what you wish you could do for all. And a lot of people give the excuse, well, I can't help everybody, so I'm not going to help. Well, that's nonsense. You can help at least one. And you're like, well, it's not fair. Well, life isn't fair. But you can do for one what you wish you could do for all. And in that one, I encourage you to go time instead of money. To go long instead of just a short burst. Actually give to that person everything you wish you could, and in doing that, you at least change that life. And so that's kind of my response to that. All right? Yes, in the back.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Do you speak at schools? Because I wouldn't have heard any of this if I wasn't stirring today.
So yes, I do, but you've encouraged me to do it more. So I'll make it a point to do it more. Okay.
That's really inspiring.
Well, thank you very much. I'll take that advice. I'll do it more. Absolutely.
You just changed a life.
Well, good. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
As a woman-owned business, one of our biggest obstacles, and I won't say challenges, because there is a difference for me. Obstacle was access to capital. How do you, when you're challenged or have that obstacle, how do you overcome that as a small business? Also, the biggest challenge that we faced was an explosion, something similar, not as big as your scale. When you talk about over a period of 4 years, going from 5 employees to almost 50, and the cost of everything.
Yes.
Uniforms, we have a security business.
Okay.
So those were some challenges, and access to capital was an obstacle. How did you overcome that?
Yeah, no, I know that experience well. That was obviously part of our growth, and I wouldn't be surprised if you go from the 50 to 500 one day. This again is not politically correct, and I apologize, but I hate these banks. Like, these banks are very difficult. I know, and I apologize. It is a common sentiment among people looking for money, but it is like pulling teeth at the dentist's office to try to get access to this money. I know it, I lived it, and I'm just, every time I go to lunch with a banker, they're paying. Like, that's just how it's gonna be now to the rest of my life, because of how hard it's been to raise money. And so I'm still to this day haven't cracked the complete nut. I think somebody in the Access to Capital panel, somebody spoke to the 5 C's of capital, and it is about your character and credit and all this other stuff, but it is hard. And that you have to build this thickness in your skin to keep asking. Like, it is, because oftentimes it's a decision. I mean, recently I had an experience where we were trying to buy something, and I was good. They saw my financials, they saw everything I had going, but then when they looked at me in the face, for whatever reason, all of a sudden he couldn't do it. And that was tough. I kind of pulled him to the side and said what's going on. It's like, man, I'm not gonna be able to, it's right idea, right business, wrong person. And I was like, well, okay. And so it is tough. Things that I've done. So it's just real truth. One, I've gone to, I've reached out to the SBA, and I think that's a wonderful process. The guy in charge of the SBA for Dallas is a Haitian guy too, so he kind of took me under his wing, and I'm learning that process, and I'm looking to get an SBIC, which is a Small Business Investment Company, and so I'm going to look down that path. But they are a true source of help. I've seen people get access to capital through that, with that help from the guarantee. The second is leveraging non-traditional routes. So factoring is an issue. And let me double click on this, because this is important. So when I was growing, the problem wasn't because I was black, if I'm honest. The problem was the nature of my business being a service business. The banks couldn't really lend me because they didn't trust the asset. So the asset was my receivables. I remember at a time having $300,000 or $400,000 in receivables from the government, and I was like, I'm making money, but I'm going broke. Like, this is a problem. And when I went to the bank, they were like, look, I can't help you. And so what I did is I went to a factoring company where they leverage the assets. And the factoring companies are crazy expensive. And most people will tell you, don't use factoring because it's too expensive. But the problem is they'll lend. They'll lend, and if you can get access to the capital, and if growth is what you're trying to do, you just have to conceptually view them as a partner that you're paying extra and try to get rid of that partner as soon as possible. And you can either stop growing or you can slow down your growing, but if you're not ready to do that, you want to keep going balls to the wall, then you actually have to leverage other means. The second way is I got an independent investor, somebody who looked at my situation. He was like, wait, you have $300,000 and you need the money? Absolutely, and he just wrote me a check. He gave me a personal line of credit, and he ended up being the one that bought the business back from me. So personal investors, factoring, and building your personal balance sheet in order to get the bank loan is the best way. The last key on that is when you're going down this path with bankers, find the one you like and just say, what exactly do I need to do in order for you to lend to me? And once you know that answer, go do everything you can to get to that point, and then you can come back to them. But you've created a stake in the ground where, one, you've built a relationship, and then two, you've created an endpoint. And when you get there, you come back and say, hey, I did everything you said. That's what I would do.
I have a part two.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you're right. No, John Trials is his name, and he was just terrible banker, but that's all right. That's just deep.
We were fortunate enough to find a factoring company that was only at 3%, so we were very fortunate to find that, and that was our saving grace. However, there's this thing called FICA tax.
Okay.
We, with the employees, we pay that tax. Would you ever recommend that your employees be
contractors?
1099 at the end of the year versus savings somewhere? Because that
This is recorded, so I'm gonna be careful what I say. But I'll if you Google me, I'll connect you to another factor that should be able to beat that price range. If you're doing 3%, it's a bank out of Houston that they have a factoring arm too. They start you in factoring, and then they move you to the bank. So if you want that connection, I'll give it to you. But in terms of 1099, no, it's just a shortcut. Like if the people are employees, then they're really employees. And really what you're doing is you're actually pushing on all of the burden onto them as opposed to having it onto you. And yeah, that's a short-term win, but again, kind of that's short-term thinking. Long-term, if these people are really employees, then you really just need to treat them as such and just pay them and find access to the capital to do that and just build that into your budget. I know it's tough, and it's a simple fix. A lot of small businesses do it. They're like, oh, I'll just make everybody contractors. But if the IRS ever comes back and gets you, you're gonna be upset that you did that. So it's kind of it's a short-term fix to the real long-term problem is you just need access to more capital. If you're making money, you should be able to pay it and move forward. Great question though. And gave me a chance to go at the bankers. Sorry, I'm gonna get you.
You do know we sponsor this.
I know, hey. However, bankers are a necessary part of society. And I'll be more than happy to put some money in each one of your banks if you're willing to give me a loan. But no, they are a necessary part. They are a necessary part. Other questions? I saw you had one.
I just want to know how old you are.
I'm 31.
Sorry?
31? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'll be 32 in June, on June 16th. Yes?
So I had a quick question. I heard this saying once, because those of us that are women in this room and also women of color, we wear double identities. And I heard this quote once, which I didn't fully understand until I got married last summer. And it was that if women had wives, in the non-gendered sense, if we had that support system that a wife traditionally plays in a household, we would be the multi-billionaires. And so my question to you is, one, what does your wife do?
Yeah.
And two, how can we, we often, if there are women in the room who are entrepreneurs, we're feeding the children, we're taking them to school, we're running our businesses, we might even be working our day jobs, we're supporting our husbands, we're, doing the laundry, doing the dishes. Like, how can you speak to how we do it all and how we can get our spouses or our significant others to be more supportive of the work that we do?
Yeah, no, that is a great question, and it's I had never thought about it that way, but that's right. So the simple answer is, again, I'm a business guy, so I look at problems and look at business solutions. So you hear the analogy of guys saying they have a work wife. Well, girls theoretically could too. Like hiring an assistant, one of the single best investments I have right now is my assistant. Because my assistant allows me to do so much more. She fills up some of the holes that I have, but in addition, she's better at stuff than I am. And so it makes me go further faster and just extra hands of someone else I can trust. And so I had never thought about that, but as I run through the Rolodex of women in business that I know, there is a differentiator between the ones that are successful who have a great assistant and the ones that don't. And there is, for every individual person, you have a value system. The reason why I don't go out and speak more is because I got 3 little kids at home and I want to be that supportive husband, and I want to be there as a father for my kids. And so I have to do that value exchange. Like, well, then I can't go do all the things I want to do. I have to make that trade-off. And it's not really a value unless you're trading something off for it. So you as a mother, you have to decide, okay, what's more important to me? If it is being there with my kids, then I have to have a team around me that can support me. And one of those pieces that I might need is an executive assistant. Executive assistant, it's hard sometimes to be willing to pay for somebody to be an executive assistant and for someone to pay to go pick up your laundry or to do those things because it seems foolish. Like, well, I can just do it. And it's like, yeah, you can, but you only have so much time. And so paying somebody $10 an hour, or $15 an hour, or $20 an hour to go do those things for you, pick up your clothes, those other things, will give you some of your time back. And like I said, I had never really thought about it from a woman's perspective, but as I look at the difference between great, average, and bad, that is something that stays there as a great difference. And just knowing what your values are and then building a team around you to help you.
Because even women executives, they don't lose the hat of mother
Correct.
or wife.
Correct.
They carry that. And then they have to, like women, we have to perform 5 times
Yep.
what men perform.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, not even I think that's true. That is true. If your value system is, and that's what it comes down to, if your value system is, I want to be involved in my kids' lives, I want to do those things, you're going to have trade-offs. And in those trade-offs, you can cover for some of those things by having a great team. But I think it's even more, I'll probably speak about this more. This is a good idea. Yeah, it's good concept they bring out. You'll take your cut out of that? Yeah. You have to, yeah, women need to invest more in assistance and team than men do even, if they want to quote unquote have it all. Yeah, and it's a kid. And so it came out of you that you feel your heart is walking around out there. But if you still want to do great in business, because like I said, no matter how hard it is, you're still competing against me. And so you have to make sure you have a team. So yeah, great point, great question. Others? I want to make sure I get Brandon if he hasn't left, but you might have left already. Yes?
Can I just say something to your point?
Yeah, and women, some women in the room should answer that too. That's a good point.
I would say that recently I have just learned and it's reaffirmed to me that we have to support each other. That stop looking at me as your biggest competitor, and I'm your biggest supporter. The woman sitting next to you in your office, or sitting next to you at church, or that you tweet back and forth on Twitter, we're your biggest supporters. We are not your competition. So when you need help or you're overwhelmed, we need to be able to ask each other for help. So I would say you definitely need a wife, and you need to be able to give some of your power to your wife. Like,
yeah.
I'm not shining over you, I'm shining because of you. So I think that's one thing that we should know.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Yes, other question. Yes, sir.
You decide to hire your first full-time employee?
First full-time employee was probably in 2006, in 2006, and it was right before I was either going to go to law school or I guess it would have been 2005, because it would either go to law school or do this full-time, and I decided to do this full-time. I thought it was the right decision, and so I had to hire people to do it, so that's when I made that first decision. It was a good friend of mine. Yeah, great question. Other questions? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Made that decision versus going to, like, what thoughts were going through your head?
I'm different, as you might be able to tell. So it's just wired in my DNA. I just had to do it. It wasn't, I guess that's why it was a weird question for me, because I was like, what do you mean? Like, that's just what you had to do. Like, so I knew I had a clear vision of what I wanted to do to be successful, and I wanted to do a business. I was all in. So again, people who are wired like I am from an entrepreneur standpoint, they don't see any other option. It's not a scary decision to hire somebody full time. It's a necessary one. And I'm just all in. And again, that makes me a little crazy. I'm a little bit crazy. But you'll hear stories on entrepreneurs who will max out their credit cards, who will second mortgage their homes, and it's nothing more than that's just their DNA. They don't know anything better. It's just like the people who like to jump out of planes. There's something in our DNA I don't jump out of planes, but there's something in the DNA that just makes it make sense. But if it wasn't in my DNA and that was a tough decision, I would immediately go to my board. I would really have that outside validation of people that I trust. Is this really a good idea, or am I just messing around? Because this is about to be somebody's life that's dependent on my idea. And I think that board is who I would lean on to for that advice. Yeah, great question. Others? Cricket? Oh. Well, good. Well, thank you again for the time. I think the only thing I'll leave you with is I didn't speak a lot of the failures that I've had personally, but I want you to know that I've had a ton. I think every failure I've ever had is what's brought me here today. And I can look back, I remember being down $500,000 at one point and not knowing how we were, no, I did. I wasn't scared. I knew we were gonna get out of it. But I still failed. I stubbed my toe, and I just kept believing, and it was because I had good people around me who supported me, who said to do it. There were probably 2 times in my business career where I really wanted to give up, and those were times where I was lonely and I was scared, but I was able to rely on the people who were around me, and they allowed me to be here today. So hopefully that's helped somebody in the room, and definitely thank you for the opportunity and the time to speak. Appreciate it, my brother. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Oh, wow. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.